Well, if Attorney General Pam Bondi thought she was just going to lay low and hope nobody remembered she was the Attorney General, a Republican, MAGA no less, who runs the House Oversight Committee, Republican Representative James Comer, has just made it clear that he's not screwing around, and he's now issued her a subpoena to appear before the House Oversight Committee hearing and to answer for her role in the Epstein document cover-up and effectively the Epstein Scandal. The only reason a subpoena would have to be issued by the chairperson of the House Oversight Committee, in this case a Republican, is because, well, let's put it this way. It sounds like she had been peeing in the sandbox, if you know what I mean. She was not cooperating with the committee because they would never have had to subpoena her if she agreed to come in. Now, she has to come in when the Judiciary Committee, run by Jim Jordan, brings her in, because that's an oversight committee that has direct oversight over her office. But the House Oversight Committee doesn't necessarily have that power over her, which makes it automatic, meaning she'd either have to volunteer or Comer alone would have to bring her in. Comer is interesting because in the last week or so, he's thrown the Trump administration under the bus related to Epstein a couple of times. I reported on James Comer in an interview with Jesse Waters, basically saying that the New Mexico ranch of Jeffrey Epstein should have been searched during Trump's first administration, but that the New Mexico officials were told to stand down and stop searching that ranch where, for all we know, dead bodies of victims of the child sex trafficking are buried during the Trump administration by the Trump Department of Justice led by Bill Barr. When I heard that, I was like, well, who made that statement? I was told James Comer. I said, are you kidding me? I mean, the wheels are falling off the wagon when it comes to support for Donald Trump and trying to protect him related to the Epstein scandal. I'm Michael Popok. You're on the Midas Touch Network and on Legal AF. Let's get to the new demand. But I wanted to give you the background that this is a very strong letter. This is a very critical letter. It lays out not just, we like to see it, here's your subpoena, but it's speaking to the American people about something that Republicans and Democrats have joined together here against Donald Trump, which is the Epstein scandal, the cover-up of the Epstein scandal, and the attempted cover-up of the cover-up. You don't write a strong letter like that if you're getting the level of cooperation that you require from the Attorney General of the United States. You write it to this audience when you are not. You don't have to issue a subpoena. She can come in voluntarily. But apparently, after numerous demands and negotiations and backroom negotiations, she refused, hence the subpoena. Let me read to you from the letter, and we'll post it up on Legal AF Substack for you to read as well. It says, Dear Attorney General Bondi, the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform is reviewing the possible mismanagement of the federal government's investigation of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, the circumstances and subsequent investigations of Epstein's death, the operation of sex trafficking rings, and the ways for the federal government to effectively combat them. In the ways in which Epstein and Maxwell sought to curry favor and exercise influence to protect their illegal activities and potential violations of ethics rules related to elected officials. Well, let's unpack all of that, shall we? How many elected officials do we know of that are ensnared in the elected officials in the Epstein matter? One that I can think of, and his last name starts with Trump. On March 4th, the committee voted to approve a motion directing the committee to authorize a subpoena be issued to you. Now, the chairperson, Comer, could have vetoed it, but he did not. He's now ordered her to appear on April the 14th, 2026. In the meantime, there are more people that are testifying, including Epstein's accountant, who recently came in and talked about things that were not great for the scandal, nor for Donald Trump, including his testimony, according to one witness, that there was a payoff of a Trump victim from an Epstein victims fund. He goes over what the committee's powers are, which she should, of course, know. And then he goes off and says at the end that under the rules, she shall bring with her books, records, correspondence, and memorandum and documents as may be necessary. So what was she going to bring with her? Instead of the burn book, is she going to bring the 3 million documents that they've produced and have them at her ready when she's testifying? It's a very interesting, almost threat by Comer about the documents. Now, I'm sure there's going to be pushback and calls by Donald Trump to stop the Bondi testimony. She doesn't want to do this for obvious reasons. Let me show you, in case you haven't seen Comer in a while. Here's Comer just in the last 48 hours throwing the Trump administration and Donald Trump under the bus about why the New Mexico ranch, where New Mexico officials right now are continuing to search to determine whether there are dead victims of Epstein and the sex trafficking ring in the hills of this ranch or on the property of this ranch. And so here's a clip that we found all strange, especially coming from James Comer. Play it.
Sounds pretty sick if what's been said about it's true. What are you hearing?
Well, I'm glad that the New Mexico authorities are going there and searching that property. I know that if no one searches the property, whenever this investigation is finally concluded, people are always going to have questions about whether or not there were deaths there, whether or not there were mysterious surgeries and things like that happening on the ranch. I don't know, but I do know this. The federal government asked New Mexico to stop their investigation, I believe back in 2019 of that ranch. So there's just so many questions about how the government failed the victims and how government failed in trying to prosecute Epstein sooner. I mean, this whole thing doesn't make sense. Everyone has conspiracy theories on, how Epstein was able to get away with it. Was it because he had, powerful friends? Yeah. Was it because he was an agent? No, we don't know, but we're going to find out. And I'm glad that they're on the ground now in New Mexico searching that property.
Congressman, you said in 2019 the government told New Mexico authorities to stand down investigating the ranch. Do you know what branch of the government?
It was the Department of Justice, I believe, and I believe it was because they I believe it perhaps was the Southern District of New York, because they had taken over the investigation at that point. So again, these are questions that we have. We want to get the answers, but I will say publicly, I'm glad that the New Mexico authorities are on the ground searching that property. I don't know if there's anything there. I don't think anybody knows, but I do know this, Jesse. It's probably never been searched before very thoroughly.
That's crazy.
The house probably has, but the property hasn't.
That's